I never imagined I'd find myself in such a place. My life had always been a roller coaster full of highs and lows, but through it all, I believed my marriage to James was something solid. We'd been together for nearly 5 years. Sure, we had our share of arguments like any couple, but we always found our way back to each other. Or at least that's what I believed. Everything shifted one particular evening. James had told me he'd be working late, so I invited a few friends over for a casual get-together. Among them was Mark. He and I had known each other for years, and over time our bond had grown deeper than simple friendship. Still, we had never crossed any lines until that night. One drink turned into 2. The laughs turned into long, lingering looks, and then suddenly we were kissing. It wasn't premeditated, and I couldn't even find a real reason for why it happened. Maybe it was the emotional emptiness I'd been feeling in my marriage. Maybe it was just a reckless, fleeting lapse in judgment. But the second it happened, the guilt came crashing down on me like a wave. I pulled away instantly, aware of how terribly wrong it was. I barely had a chance to gather my thoughts. Just as I opened my mouth to tell Mark he should leave, the front door slammed open. There in the doorway stood James. His face was drained of color, eyes wide with disbelief. Froze. The hurt on his face was unmistakable, raw and sharp. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The silence between us said everything. "James, wait, it's not what it looks like," I stuttered, but the words felt meaningless in the thick, crushing silence. Mark, clearly uncomfortable, gathered his things and quickly exited. I couldn't even look at him. My entire world had started to fall apart right in front of me, and all I could see was James, silent, shattered. "I didn't think you were capable of something like this," he said at last. His voice barely audible. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't furious. That made it worse. It was disappointment, deep and piercing, that hit harder than any anger ever could. "James, please, I'm sorry. I made a terrible mistake. Just let me explain." But he shook his head slowly, his eyes distant. "You don't need to explain anything," he said, voice calm but final. "You already did. Your actions said more than words ever could." He wasn't even looking at me anymore, just through me like I had become a stranger. And that's when the reality sank in. He wasn't just devastated that I'd kissed someone else. He was mourning something bigger. The trust we had, the person he thought I was, the life we'd built. I had torn it apart. And he didn't even have the energy to be angry. That's how I knew there was no fixing this. "I never meant for this to happen," I whispered, my voice cracking under the weight of regret. "You still don't get it," he replied softly. He took a slow breath. "It's not just about what you did. It's that you didn't think of me before you did it. You didn't think of us. That's what really hurts." And then he turned and walked out, leaving me standing there in silence, hollow and broken. The guilt was unbearable. But what haunted me most were his final words. It wasn't just the betrayal that tore us apart. It was the realization that I had stopped valuing what we had enough to protect it. James never contacted me after that night. He moved out. I tried reaching out, texts, calls, but deep down I knew it was too late. What we had was beyond repair. The hardest part, knowing that the only person I could blame was myself. The love we once had, the bond we once cherished, it was gone. Not because of a single kiss, but because I let my own doubts and loneliness win. And in the silence that followed, I finally understood what James meant. It wasn't just that I betrayed him. It was that I no longer saw him as someone worth guarding from that betrayal.